Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the company presentation of MPC Energy Solutions. It's a great pleasure to be here at the Pareto Energy Conference again in Oslo, second time after last year. And many thanks for the team of Pareto Securities to invite us yet again to this exciting event. We are very happy also that it takes place physically. We are looking forward to a lot of discussions and interesting meetings today and tomorrow. Stefan Meixner, the CFO, and myself will provide you in this presentation with an overview of our company again, our ongoing projects, as well to give you an outlook on our next steps and activities in the region. Next slide, please. Yeah, 1 year ago, we introduced the company MPC Energy Solutions to the markets, and a lot has certainly happened since then. We have successfully closed our IPO in January this year, and since then are extremely active in implementing our strategy and our projects and our operations in our launch region, Latin America and Caribbean. As a full life cycle IPP that takes care of its own developments as an operator and owner of sustainable energy solutions, we are really here to serve our clients and to provide low carbon intensive, affordable and clean energy to the region. Next slide, please. Yes, and it's really exciting to show you this year this slide because it demonstrates the tremendous progress that we made as a company in the last 12 months. You see here our local footprint in the region. Our aim is to become a leading independent power producer for Latin America and the Caribbean, and we made a major step towards this goal in 2021. You saw from our press releases that we implemented our first energy efficiency project in Puerto Rico for the private sector, that we have recently commenced construction for our first solar park in Colombia, and are also about to commence construction for our second solar park in Colombia, bringing us to around 38 megawatts of solar parks under construction. Comparing that with today's installed capacity of around 150 megawatt in the country, demonstrates already our leading position also in the Colombian renewable energy market. El Salvador is another exciting market that we have now commenced construction in 2021. And from our pipeline, you will see later our development projects that we are advancing in Jamaica, and just recently announced our development partnership with Subentix Caribbean for the Dominican Republic. Honduras, Mexico, and Panama are further markets where we have projects in our pipeline, and Stefan will elaborate later on these very exciting projects. Overall, we do seek major diversification throughout our portfolio. Diversification to mitigate risks when it comes to regulatory frameworks, when it comes to our off-takers, but also to the resource risk of wind and solar throughout the region. So you will see us being very active in Latin America and the Caribbean also in 2022, when most of these projects will become operational and move into the next part of its life cycle. Next slide, please. (2020) and 2021 were clearly challenging years when it comes to the COVID pandemic. But when it comes to the opportunities that this situation brought globally, we're actually very excited that it leads to a very strong alignment of the governments when it comes to a commitment to the energy transition. And with the energy transition, it is connected to the build out of renewable energy assets, and clearly the target markets of MPC Energy Solutions that are also listed here on the slide, Colombia, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, and other nations have very strong and ambitious goals to implement renewable energy projects in their energy metrics and diversifying away from the traditional fossil fuel that is used in the region. And that provides really MPC Energy Solutions with the right sentiment and framework that these governments are implementing locally, with the right support to implement our projects. And this support only got stronger in the last 2 years. The commitments of the governments have never been stronger than now. And not to say that these governments do not have to implement or introduce any sort of subsidies, because renewable energy with the abundance of natural resources available is a clearly competitive technology by now to provide affordable clean energy to our clients in these markets. Next slide, please. Yeah, and in these markets, we want to be part of the energy transition throughout the different technologies. As usual, we talk about the most mature solar PV and onshore wind power, but also being part of the next step in the energy transition, which clearly means integrating storage, integrating battery storage to solar PV and wind power plants, but also investing in projects with energy efficiency, where we can reduce the carbon footprint of our clients by simply implementing state-of-the-art technologies, reducing consumption of energy, and also decarbonizing the source of energy, switching the type of fuel, switching the technology. And we believe that this is a very successful model for our company to be part of the energy transition in Latin America and the Caribbean. Next slide, please. Yeah, what does that mean on key facts? And on the next slides, Stefan will go over into the details. But at the moment, we do have a portfolio of 63 megawatt projects under execution already. Our backlog that we want to close by the end of the year is another 114 megawatts. This is our immediate opportunity that we will implement with the capital and the funds raised at the IPO. And then there's really the development backlog and the growth pipeline, which is a combined almost 2,000 megawatts of opportunity that we are seeing in the region available to us, but which would also require additional capital. As you know from our last presentations, we target double-digit returns. On average, we are moving somewhere between 12 to 14% of returns at project level in these investments. But again, Stefan will elaborate further on the project economics in the second part of this presentation.
So moving on to the significant number of projects that we currently pursue. As you can see here, there's an abundance of opportunities that we have in Latin America and the Caribbean, our current focus region. We classify our projects at the moment into two distinct categories. One is what we call our portfolio. These are projects that we already own and where we have either already deployed capital or will deploy capital over the next few weeks. And then there's a second category, which we call the backlog, which includes everything that we either have under exclusivity or we have a right of first refusal, or where we have already taken the final investment decision. The backlog is significantly larger than the portfolio, of course, but some of these projects from the backlog should materialize fairly soon, which is why we have selected some projects and called them the advanced backlog, because these are the projects where we are really making good progress and we expect that we will take ownership. And taken together, our portfolio and the advanced backlog combine to a total of 177 megawatts, which we expect to be installed and ramped up over the next 2 years. And in addition, and I think this is extremely important to understand, is that from the development backlog, those projects that are not part of the advanced backlog yet, we have sufficient funding to at least get to the ready-to-build status for these projects, or a significant number of these projects also over the next 24 months, which would add significant value not only for our company, but also for our shareholders, of course. If we look at where we are headed, we briefly spoke about the target exposure of our portfolio in the long run. In the short run, of course, the footprint that we pursue is fairly large on the PV solar side, but we will, of course, add other project types like wind onshore and energy efficiency to the mix in the future, which should provide us with a very nice technological diversification, spreading the risk and also the files that we can provide in the different jurisdictions, which brings me to the regional approach that we take. Being focused on Latin America and the Caribbean means that we have a very fragmented market setup, which plays to our advantage because we are able to make investments in different jurisdictions, several countries, which spreads the risk and mitigates the risks of our investments further, because it automatically means that we work with several different off-takers for our power purchase agreements, for example. And that makes sure that we, as they say, do not put all our eggs in one basket. So we will pursue this kind of diversification, not only to optimize our portfolio and mitigate risk, but also to make sure that we get the best returns in the different countries and are selective with our project approach. Many of you might know that we went public in January of this year. We received a total capital injection of 87 million in cash. Part of that money was set aside for project development, for building our organization, also to fund certain working capital items over the next 2 years. But most of the money, 75 million in total, we have allocated and in part already deployed and committed to the projects that you see here, which basically summarize what we showed you on the previous slides, our portfolio projects and our projects from the advanced backlog. So in other words, the 75 million that we are seeing here in the waterfall will get us to the 177 megawatt of installed capacity over the next 2 years. And in addition, part of the money that we set aside will help us get at least 350 megawatts from the development backlog to ready to build status also over the next 24 months. That is the plan that we have, and so far we are making good progress so that we should see our projection confirmed hopefully over the next 12 to 24 months. And then just to give you a bit of a feel for how the project economics work, I mean, this is of course different from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, and it really depends on how we finance the project. But overall, if you start on the left from the revenue that the asset generates by selling electricity, what we really target is a high EBITDA margin of 75%, meaning that 25% of the revenue will be spent on operational expenses on asset level, for maintenance and operation, for running the asset, for insurance, for land leases, etc. And then taking depreciation into account, we will usually arrive at an EBIT margin of 45 to 50% for a particular asset. And to go from that EBIT to the money that we can actually then distribute as dividends to us and our partners from the asset level up to the respective parent companies, we usually account for interest expenses of project finance, since we leverage some of our projects. And then depending on the jurisdictions, corporate income taxes on an asset level might also come into play. We do benefit from certain exemptions for particular periods of times because the governments do support the expansion of renewable energy, and that usually comes alongside with tax breaks. But long story short, overall, we believe that during the project finance phase of a project, so until the project finance loans have been repaid, 15 to 20% net income margin on an asset level, and correspondingly that amount being distributed as dividends to us, is something that we can achieve and that we target to also meet our return levels for the project. Where are we headed? You could see from the list of projects that we showed you that we are very strong in Latin America and Caribbean at the moment. There is an abundance of opportunities that will keep us busy for quite some time. But there's something, or there's some other regions in the world that we see as a logical next step for expansion. The Asia Pacific region is one that comes to mind because the countries there, island nations and other nations, they really do face similar obstacles and challenges when it comes to power supply. Many of them are still dependent on fossil fuels. Some of them do not have the advantage of a landline connection. So they do have to invest in renewable energies and diversify their energy mix. We see that the market characteristics are fairly similar to what we currently face in Latin America and the Caribbean. So finding the right partners, finding the right opportunities there is the logical next step for us once we believe that we have made significant progress in Latin America and the Caribbean to take the next step of our expansion. Opportunities have already been identified. We are conducting market studies. We are being offered investment opportunities almost on a weekly basis, so that we believe if we find the right projects and we find the right partners, that this would be a very good next step for us over the next, let's say, 18 to 36 months, depending on how quickly we can develop our pipeline in Latin America and the Caribbean.
Yeah, thank you, Stefan, for also elaborating on where our next stage of growth is being located at. Asia Pacific, clearly a very attractive region to the company. But we also would like to emphasize another very important consideration for MPC Energy Solutions, and clearly also for our shareholders, and that is the integration of ESG in the full life cycle of our activities. At this moment, we are implementing our environmental social management system, which is in compliance with the global best practice for ESG reporting and activities in renewable energy. And we really would just like to emphasize that during the origination, construction, as well as the operational part of our business, we do have the right tools and dedicated resources in this company to really ensure a proper implementation of our environmental social management system, but also the right amount of transparency and reporting to the capital markets and our stakeholders and shareholders. So in 2022, you will also see our first sustainability report on our activities in the region. And with that, next slide, please. We would like to close our presentation for today, just to summarize a few key takeaways here. So MPC Energy Solutions, as an independent power producer, has a full life cycle approach. We are engaged in the development, the construction, as well as the operation of renewable energy projects, launching our activities in Latin America and the Caribbean. In 2021, it was really our focus to deliver our initial portfolio that we have outlined during the IPO process with very attractive return profiles. We are well on track to deliver this portfolio, make it fully operational in the coming 12 months. And we do have a very promising market environment, despite the challenges caused by COVID and the disruption in some supply chain. I think everyone understands that there is a significant commitment towards a green recovery, especially in the markets where we are active in. And we see that the governments are improving all the regulatory frameworks that enable private sector participants like MPC Energy Solutions to successfully implement their projects. And as a company, we do have a very lean capital allocation process. We are a very flexible and agile company, seizing the opportunities that we are seeing in the market with an experienced management and execution team on the ground in the region that we are active in, with our teams in Panama, Colombia, and beyond. And also we are really acting in a current environment of historically low interest rates, which are, from a return perspective, very beneficial to our projects. And with that, we would like to close for today. Thank you for your attention, sharing also our contact information, and hope to see you next year again at the Pareto Energy Conference. Thank you.